Hey guys, Greg here. I got a stack of about 20 records to show you. I'll go through them real fast. They're common records. They were destined to the thrift store, but we rescued them. A lot of records end up in the thrift store because old folks get rid of them. And this is a neighbor of my mother's who passed to the great bargain bin in the sky, if you will. And his widow had about 200 records that she was donating to a thrift store. But they let me get in there and grab a dozen or so. Here's what I've got. Paul McCartney's solo album from the early 70s. Not one of his best albums, but does have Maybe I'm Amazed, the original studio version. And I love the photography in here because it really paints the zeitgeist of the times. You know, the trends in photography and style and culture, and you know what I'm talking about. What are these things? Cherries? I don't even know what this cover's supposed to be. Aretha, Lady of Soul, Lady Soul. It's got Natural Woman and Chain of Fools on the Atlantic label. It's a little bit beat up. A lot of these albums are beat up. The McCartney is nearly unlistenable, but actually the cover is beat up, but the vinyl is fine on this one. Aretha Franklin, the great Lady of Soul. Here's a great album by Stevie Wonder, early 70s, 1972, Talking Book. So Stevie Wonder was this, child star, and he eventually wanted to sort of change his image into more of an independent artist, with the African garb, and he was big about putting Braille on a lot of his records. There's even a message in Braille in here that's for Braille readers only. It's not transcribed on the album. I don't know what it says. Let's leave that to the Braille readers to figure that out. This has Sunshine of My Life, which is a great tune. Side 2 starts with Superstition. And that tune is, I want to say, more closely related with a single musical instrument than any other tune ever and any other instrument. The clavinet made its sort of debut to the public on the song Superstition. And that's not a synthesizer. There's a real string thing and mechanical inside the clavinet. And Stevie Wonder brought that instrument to fame with this record. It's also got a tune I think is the sleeper hit on here, which is called I Believe. I Do Believe When I Fall in Love, It'll Be Forever. Great tune that not as well known. Stevie. Frank Sinatra, My Kind of Broadway. This is just kind of a compilation of tunes that he had recorded in the past, and they just made a compilation of, those are all the Broadway tunes. Stick them on a record. Luck Be a Lady from Guys and Dolls being kind of the most famous tune on here on the Reprise label, which was Frank's own label. Is this record in good shape? I've listened to about a third of it. Yeah, the vinyl's I have cleaned all these and it was a mess. Still in the shrink wrap, The Graduate, Simon and Garfunkel, Plastics, I Believe You're Trying to Seduce Me, and Sound of Silence, Scarborough Fair, Mrs. Robinson, one of the very iconic images and albums and movies from that period, Dustin Hoffman. Here's a very average record. If in the 60s and the 50s you only had one or two jazz records, it might be something kind of cheesy like Ramsey Lewis. The In Crowd. I'm in with the In Crowd. So he did a lot of popular tunes. There's usually Beatles songs on his stuff. What's on here? Tennessee Waltz, not a Beatles song. Oh, the love theme from Spartacus. That was a beautiful tune that was on that Yusef Lateef record that came out recently. It's love theme from the movie Spartacus by Alex North, who was mostly known as Stanley Kubrick's composer guy. Okay, we got all kinds of stuff from the 50s, 60s, even 70s. How about some soft rock from Seals and Crofts? Summer Breeze Makes Me Feel Fine. Soft rock, Bread and all those people. Who plays on here? Who loves Schmilson? A little Schmilson, Schmilson. You know what I'm talking about. Harry Nilsson, one of the great songwriters of the 70s, and there are none of his originals on here. This is one of these records where he takes a bunch of tunes from like the 20s and 30s that are kind of cornball tunes and does them with a huge orchestra. He's nice enough to name and actually put a picture of every studio musician in the orchestra, which is very rare. Studio musicians usually got no mention whatsoever, so nice of him. But the tunes on here for Me and My Gal, Lullaby and Ragtime, As Time Goes By. Some of those are good songs, some are corny, but I just noticed this. Whose pins are these that he's wearing? I do not know. I know you geniuses know. Looks like some black fellow and a young kid. I have no idea who these people are. These are the records I picked out of the 200 that were on their way to the Goodwill, except my mother picked out this one. Okay, this was my mother's neighbor, and she said, okay, I'll grab all these records for you. She thought this was funny. Belle Earth, If I Embarrass You, Tell Your Friends. She was like doing body, raunchy, adults-only comedy, and I don't know what it's like. It's probably not that funny by today's standards. Oh, it's got a postcard. It says, booze is the only answer. Some of us believe that. Some of us no longer believe it. Another comedy record. Jose Jimenez, which is really a Jewish guy named Bill Dana, who did this shtick. Today would be considered racially insensitive. He talks like a person who doesn't speak very good English. In orbit, doing astronaut jokes. And this is the exact photograph and setup from the 2001 movie, but with Bill Dana in there. The red astronaut. I've listened to this. I think it is funny. I have a better copy. I was hoping this copy would be better than mine. This copy is worse than mine. Maybe I'll give that away to one of you people. Beautiful record. Elton John, Captain Fantastic. This artwork is amazing. You can spend hours staring at this photo and seeing all the little vignettes and bits and characters. And here's some sort of guy that's got a record player for a head, and out of his butt are falling walnuts. Can anyone explain that to me? But it's got the tune Someone Saved My Life Tonight, which is a really wonderfully written, great tune. Elton John. And again, dudes in the 70s glam haircuts. And if you had a 70s rock band with a haircut like that, you must have a guy named Nigel. Don't forget to include a Nigel. Nigel. Okay, my mother also picked this one out of the comedy pile. The Jewish American Princess. Do you guys have one of those in your household? Not the record, but I mean an actual Jewish American princess. I live in a part of Los Angeles. There's a lot of Jewish American princesses. I married a Catholic girl. This is actually a comedy record. Lou Jacoby, B. Arthur. I have not listened to it. I have no idea if it's funny or not, but there's what a Jewish American princess looked like in the early 70s anyway. Thanks, Mom, for including that one. Donovan's Greatest Hits. Donovan wrote a lot of great tunes. And this is, got some water damage on the, is that the original Nirvana album cover? Starring Donovan. But he's not sticking out his, oh wait, there's a book. This is a booklet. Oh, he is sticking out his, don't look at that, you guys. It's a booklet. It's not just a gatefold, but the pages are stuck together, if you will. Mellow Yellow, Sunshine Superman, Hurdy-Gurdy Man. Great tunes from the great Donovan. Okay, here we have two records. I'm going to give you these at the same time. From the beautiful model turned mediocre actress turned mediocre singer from France, Claudine Longet. I have this record. I've did a video on the cassette I have of this, so now I have the album, Claudine Longet. In the 60s, they used to take, mediocre actors and actresses and say, why don't you do a record? And we'll arrange some popular tunes, some Beatle tunes, and whatever. So she does Here, There, and Everywhere on here, and a couple of Jobim tunes, Sunrise, Sunset from Fiddler on the Roof. This one is The Look of Love, Burt Bacharach tune. She faded from obscurity after she was charged with the murder of her handsome Olympic skier husband. It was ruled to be, oops, I didn't mean to shoot you, that I was cleaning the gun type thing. But he was known to have maybe more girlfriends than she had approved of. So okay. Elvis's Golden Records. This is from 1958. By 1958, Elvis already had something like a dozen million-selling records. So that's what this is. This was, by 1958, they took all the million-selling records, gold records, and just slapped them on a compilation. Hound Dog, Don't Be Cruel, All Shook Up, Heartbreak Hotel. But interesting factoid, Elvis's early records were coming out in 78. So a lot of these records made the million sales mark by being released on 78 and 45 at the same time. So that's trivia that no one even cares about. That's why it's called trivia. Cheech and Chong, Los Cochinos, with an awesome die-cut car door, car window. Look at that. And then there's another Cheech and Chong. And then if you flip it over, there's another Cheech and Chong. Cheech and Chong, there's some actually pretty cool tunes on here. As soon as I find the Basketball Jones. She got a Basketball Jones. That's a great tune. Who plays on this record? Okay. Handwritten cover liner notes, which is kind of cool. But George Harrison plays guitar on here. And Carole King plays piano on here. And Nicky Hopkins and Tom Scott, the saxophone player. And Billy Preston plays organ. So, all-star cast of people celebrating the stoned-out drug culture of the late 60s, early 70s. There is some jazz here. Well, I already showed you Ramsey Lewis. That's fake jazz. This is some real jazz. Miles Davis' greatest hits from Columbia's point of view. He did a lot of his great records on Columbia, including Miles Ahead, Miles Smiles, Sorcerer, Miles in the Sky. The tunes on here are not really from these records. They're live versions of these tunes. So, Seven Steps to Heaven, All Blues, Someday My Prince Will Come, My Funny Valentine, but all-star cast. Ron Carter, Tony Williams, Herbie Hancock, George Coleman, Wynton Kelly, Paul Chambers, Hank Mobley is on here, Jimmy Cobb, Red Garland, John Coltrane. For a free record, not bad, but if you're a real vinyl person, go out and get all these records. Okay, every Jewish old person has this in their collection. Alan Sherman, My Son, the Folk Singer, nerdy, chubby kid, and what's he doing with this beautiful woman? I have no idea. Gotta have some seltzer. What is this? Is this a reference to the Grateful Dead, or did the Grateful Dead steal these little dancing bears from him? That confuses me. We're almost done, guys. I think we're down to the last one. Speaking of funny Jewish men, Lenny Bruce at Carnegie Hall. This was recorded in 1961, but didn't come out on vinyl till 72. Triple record set. Vinyl is like a lot of comedy records. It's barely touched. Who's going to take out a triple record set? That's a pain in the neck. Lenny Bruce, the first American to be truly the victim of cancel culture. Maybe not the first, but very famous. Lenny Bruce was censored over and over due to his use of profanity and talking about topics that pissed a lot of people off, like civil rights movement. Cops would sit in the audience of his shows and just wait for him to say the F word and get up and arrest him. Lenny Bruce lost everything. He had to turn to crime to make a living. He was banned from a lot of clubs. He died at a young age, I think 40-something. Alcohol, drugs. That's what happens when you cancel someone's career because you don't like what they say. Yes, this is a message. It's important that we let people say things even if you don't agree with them. That's it, guys. 20 records from an Altacocker, if you know that Jewish word. Thank you, Mr. Person, who I don't even remember your name, but I did get these records after your passing. And another 150 went to the Goodwill. So look out for those Andre Castellan's records next time you're at Goodwill in Southern California. Thanks for watching, guys. Let me know if you have any comments or suggestions or whatever. Just say hello. Thank you. Mazzy loves you. I haven't decided yet, so how do you turn this thing off? There's the button on this thing.